Hello and welcome to Tin Tower Talks, an occasional podcast where I, Umbreon Libris, have interesting conversations with other members of the Pokemon community. I'm very excited for today's episode as I'm joined by two fantastic creators whose work I've followed for a long time, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So please welcome Lockstin.
Hi, it's me.
You want to tell anyone who's not familiar with your work what you normally do?
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I delve into Pokemon design and etymology and inspirational origins and stuff on my channel, Lockstin and Noggin. And it's a lot of fun. Been doing it for almost 7 years now.
That is a long time. And welcome also to HoopsandHipHop.
Hello. I also make videos of the Pokemon variety on YouTube, and I do more like, I guess you could say, like interesting fact type stuff, trivia. I like to delve into like beta pre-release type stuff of the Pokemon games a lot of time. I've had my YouTube channel for almost like 8.5 years, I think. So yeah, I'm old.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I always feel like I'm a young buck in YouTube, but now I'm like one of the old people. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm. when you look at the numbers, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
I've only been doing this for not even 3 years yet, so I'm definitely on the young side, but also when I think about it, it still feels like a long time. So over the past year or so, you may have noticed this kind of wave of Pokemon creators on YouTube publishing relatively large projects where they create a Pokemon region in a lot of detail, including the Fanmon designs, locations, original characters, and even plot points and mechanics that would come into play if these projects were official Pokemon games. Lockstin, you're in the middle of your series now. Huge creators like Birdkeeper Toby and True Green 7 have announced that they are working on something like this as well. And I also know of some fairly small creators that are building their own regions, like my friend Prima Diva. But I think, Hoops, you were the first one in this space with Pokémon Cardinal. So let's start there. Why don't you tell our listeners what Pokémon Cardinal was like for anyone who wasn't familiar with it?
Well, first, I don't necessarily know that I can take credit for being the first person, because I actually got a lot of inspiration for my series from Mr. Buddy, who was going to be here but isn't. So definitely got to give credit to him for that, because he was kind of the first like domino, I guess you could say, in me creating my own series. But as far as Pokemon Cardinal goes, it's basically just it's a fan-made region type project, like you mentioned, for a Canadian-based region. And the thing I did with it that I sort of put an emphasis on was making it as like thorough as possible, so including as much of what would actually be in a Pokemon game as I could in this series, and then sort of having it be told from like a gameplay perspective where you're going to each region and you have the story beats, as opposed to having it just be more of a presentation. I kind of wanted to tell a story, so that's what I tried to do sort of differently as opposed to other things that had been out there before.
Yeah, because Mr. Buddy's videos, they were usually, or I think all of them, I think they were a single video, although sometimes I think he maybe also released like pieces of it.
Yeah, so he did like what if Australia was a Pokemon region and things like that, and his were like really the first huge, like,
Definitely his first big ones.
Type videos. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think when he started doing those, they were like the usual 8 to 12 minutes long, and then they slowly inflated to over 2 hours for the most recent one. But then you took that, and I mean, the total runtime of Pokemon Cardinal, I'm not sure, but it's definitely over 2 hours as well. And
yeah, I think it's like 4 or 5 hours. I want to say.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was totally worth it.
Mm-hmm. You kind of did a unique format for it, because you kind of alternated between sections that were voice acted and had a little bit of animation and such going on, and then parts where you narrated, where you just kind of talked about, just described what the region was like, that kind of thing. So why did you choose that? Like, what was the use of that approach?
Well, I am a huge, ginormous fan of visual novels. I love the Ace Attorney games, for instance. And so I thought, because I can't really make an actual Pokemon game where it's like, it's actually a game, you know, in the traditional Pokemon sense, and I'm just making a video, I thought that it would be cool. Like, I could obviously like have characters on screen and things like that. So I thought going from a more visual novel perspective would be a really cool way to sort of tell a story that would have its own unique style, but it could still help me like kind of move forward despite not having an actual like game type thing to work with. And another big, like, I guess you could say motivating factor for using that kind of style was I wanted to have voice acting in it, just because that adds so much to the story. And as far as me narrating it, I was just basically filling in the gaps when you didn't have someone on screen you could talk to, when you're just like walking through the routes or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of where that style came from, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to have voice acted like routes.
Yeah.
Where you're just hunting for Pokemon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your project, Lockstin, the Kaskade Region. Actually, do you prefer refer to it as the Kaskade Region or Lockemon these days?
Well, the idea with the Lockemon branding is just for like overall, because like I'll probably do another region at some point, so that way there's a word for one of it, and it's also just to separate it a bit from Pokemon because we're selling a plush.
Right.
So I don't want to call the plush an OC Pokemon.
Right.
So I had to come up with a different brand name.
Yeah, and we'll go more into that a little bit later. But how about you tell our listeners how you're going about building the Kaskade region?
Well, it was the same sort of inspiration, definitely Mr. Buddy. And then I remember Hoops and I were talking probably a year ago, and it was like, oh, I saw that you're making this thing. I had a similar idea. It's great that we're like doing this at the same time. But as for creating the region itself, the Kaskade region's based on the Pacific Northwest, so that's Oregon and Washington primarily, with a little bit of the bordering elements, so like British Columbia, Idaho, and California. And it's where I live, and it's where I grew up, so most of everything that's in it is just knowledge of where I live, what the local flora and fauna is, local folklore, myths, history, etc. And so it all just comes from a place of, what if I was able to direct my own dream Pokemon game? And like, I already look into Pokemon design and etymology on my channel all the time, so I wanted to present it in just a similar way. Like, this is just another video. It just happens to be about my own ideas.
Right, and I thought that was actually an interesting choice of format as well, because whereas Pokemon Cardinal, the format of the video was quite different from the usual videos on Hoops' channel. In your case, it's pretty much the same. Like, it looks, it's edited in the same ways and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just because it's easier for me. Because that's what we do. So not much has really changed.
Yeah, but you're still kind of weaving in a little bit of storytelling into it.
Yeah, I've dabbled into it, and Pokemon Cardinal was definitely the big inspiration for wanting to dabble into it. Eventually realized it's a little more complicated to do that, so we left it as dabbling. Might dabble again in the future, but it definitely won't be like a major part of it.
I don't know how much you're willing to talk about where you're planning on going with the series. Because so far from, I don't know how much you've recorded that hasn't been released yet, but from what we've seen so far, you've mostly talked about like the Pokemon in the region, but not so much of like what the plot is going to be like. Do you have an idea of how you're going to go about presenting that?
I actually just finished the bullet points for the plot yesterday. I'm working with a few others on a Discord to help me polish it out and get details going. I had to rewrite that thing like 4 times just because I'm starting it off writing it like it's a video script, and then, all right, this is getting too complicated. Okay, let's figure out what the characters are going to be saying. All right, that's also too complicated, and it's like 11 pages, and I'm only at the 4th gym. And so just bullet points. We have the bullet points done. We're figuring those all out. So we'll have a video about the plot soon enough. And it's interesting seeing how a lot of the overall themes are actually fleshing out now that we have the basic idea down. And just being able to put pieces together very nicely is very neat. A lot of things just happened, as people will see. Like, I didn't even realize at first how many Mon that were made are like mind control themed. And like, in the back of my head, I knew that was going to be a major plot point, but I didn't realize I was applying it to so many of the Mon individually.
Well, that's cool.
So that's fun.
Yeah, but you're kind of developing it like as you go, right? So
very much.
Okay.
Very much so.
Hoops, did you plan out the whole thing or most of the whole thing before you started actually making it?
Yeah, so I had everything made like prior to putting it out. The only thing I hadn't completed was the actual editing of the videos. That was going along as the videos themselves were coming out. But as far as like having everything together ready to go, like it was all done ahead of time. That's why it took so long for me to put it out, because it was originally like a side, like I was just doing it on the side while I was working on like my usual video stuff. And I like announced it, like it took me like a year before I like said that this is going to be a thing. And then it was another like 9 or 10 months before I started putting it out. So it's almost like 2 years before I actually like started putting out videos. Which a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was doing it on the side. So it wasn't like this ginormous like thing that I was putting all my time into, but it was a cool like process going from like starting it to like actually finishing it.
And did you have help from other people? Like, did you work with other people to work on those ideas?
I mean, kind of, I guess you could say. Like, I had the people who helped draw my Fakemon, Our Grey Wind and Dark and Windy. They would occasionally give me like feedback and like put their own input on like Pokemon designs and things like that, and like character designs as well. But for the most part, as far as like the concepts of the Pokemon and the characters and just like all the stuff you see is like, for the most part, like my own ideas.
Are you like satisfied with how it turned out? Do you feel like it ended up the way that you were expecting it to, that you were hoping it would?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because on the one hand, absolutely yes. Like it was so long before I even got to like edit the first episode that I was not like sure how it was actually going to go. And then when I started putting the videos together, it was like exactly as I had envisioned it, which was awesome. And then to see people get so invested in it, like I think one thing that I maybe didn't anticipate was like how like invested people were into it. Like I was recently reading some of the comments from the last episode, and people were sort of talking about it like it was like an actual TV show, which was like crazy and like really humbling. So I'm like super just like absolutely satisfied on that end. But also on the other side of things, like when I started putting it out and I was like watching the episodes myself from an outside perspective, now that they were out in the open, I also saw a lot of things that I was like, I could do this better, or ooh, I would like to do this if I was to do it again. So that's kind of why what spurned the idea to obviously do it again, which is what I'm working on now. I'm working on like a follow-up similar type project.
Are you willing to tell us what you have in mind?
Not right now.
All right. That's fair.
But it's basically like the whole point of it is that like I want to take what I did with Cardinal and use those lessons to like make something that can potentially be even better, because like the whole thing with Cardinal for me was I wanted to like push the envelope and do something that was really fun, but also that was just like next level. And so like now that Cardinal's over, I immediately was just like, well, like I want to like kind of keep moving forward, keep trying to like climb that mountain, if you will, and do better things. And so that is the theme, I guess you could say, of this next project. It's a similar vein to Cardinal. So like it's going to be like similar format and stuff like that. But the theme of it is just to go bigger. So I'm just taking everything I learned from Cardinal and putting it all into this next thing.
That sounds awesome. Looking forward to it. Lockstin, what has the response been like with the Kaskade Region?
Significantly better than I anticipated, which is a big part of why I'm sort of making it up as I go. Because originally I was only planning like a series of 4 videos, but then they were really big. They were the best views I've had in a long time. People loved it. The feedback was great. So decided, hey, I can flesh this out probably a lot more. And like 6 months later, we're still going. Though I feel like we're probably on the last 3 or 4 now, but we're already on like video 8 or so.
What were the first 4 that you knew you were going to do?
I knew I wanted 2 videos just going over a bunch of Pokemon ideas, like the starters, the legendaries, and other just important Pokemon that would definitely fit the region. And like, there was I had no planning for doing an entire deck's worth of Mon. And then the other 2 videos were just going to be some plot ideas and like gym leader setup, things like that. And then that'll be it. But now those have all been split into their own individual videos. The plot itself is going to take 2 videos. And yeah, it's just the scale of the project grew with the response.
That's awesome. And I guess the response was big enough that you decided to I think make a pretty big decision there on making your own plush.
Yeah, it was, I don't quite remember who asked me originally. I think it was Makeship. If you've seen those other Makeship plushes, it's like a company that makes plushes for YouTubers and stuff. They approached me and I wasn't interested at all. But then my merch guy who runs noggin.net, plug here, later approached me also. And like I had already been thinking about it because Makeship approached me. And I said, yeah, I guess you can like look into it. Let's see, use this one. This one's probably my favorite one, a Tofrug. And then like 6 months of developing later, like 8 different prototypes, we liked it and launched it, and it's been going great.
And it looks great.
Yeah, I'm really happy about how it came out.
Yeah, you got one, Hoops?
Yeah, I pre-ordered one because I think that's just like, for me, from my perspective, that was like something I always thought would be cool, like make a plush of one of my own things, but it just never entered the realm of possibility for me. So to see Lockstin do it was like super awesome. So I hopped on that immediately.
Well, thank you.
So yeah.
Yeah, the main reason I haven't committed to getting one yet, and I've definitely thought about it, is just like, I don't know where I would put it.
It's a little on the big side. I was thinking it would be smaller, and then I got it in my hands. I'm like, oh, well, it's too late to change it now. It's version 8. We need to launch. I don't want to launch it sometime after the whole series is done and over with. The sales have been good enough that we're going to do a second one. And so now it comes into the planning phase. Do we do one that already exists, or do we design a new one to be turned into a plush? You know, because certain designs work better for plushes than others. Like even the official Pokemon plushes, the more detailed ones always turn out really kind of silly looking, like the Decidueye and the Buzzswole plushes.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, what is a cute round thing that would also fit in the region? Because there has to still be an excuse for it to be in there, other than, oh, it's marketable.
Yeah, round is always better with plush and Pokemon in general.
Yeah.
Cute little monsters.
Yeah.
So Hoops, you thought about it, but now that you see Lockstin's a success with it, or are you reconsidering it?
I mean, as far as Cardinal goes, I am not really like planning anything more for Cardinal because it's kind of like finished and done. As sad as that is to say, it really is. But I'm moving on to my next thing, so I'm sort of like got my attention on that. And I mean, with Lockstin kind of taking that next step, I only feel it. I have no plans whatsoever. I'm just taking things one step at a time. But if he stepped up to the plate, I feel like it's my responsibility as a fellow YouTuber to step up to the plate right back. So we'll see what happens. But that's the good thing about, I think, what this whole trend has brought about is it's creating, I feel like it's just creating more interesting, better content where like I did Cardinal and then Lockstin kind of responded with his own thing, and now Birdkeeper Toby and True Green 7, they're responding with their own things, and it just kind of creates a better community and content in general, I feel like, which is really cool. So
I know that I'm sure that you got this question a lot, and I know that Lockstin got this question too. How much did you think about like turning it into an actual playable game?
Well, that was like the number one question that I got throughout the whole process, and believe me, like I would love to have it be a game as much as anyone else, but I didn't want to run the risk of having it be one of those fan games that gets Pokemon's attention and gets taken down, because I didn't want that to like extend to the series itself and my channel if something ever happened. So it wasn't anything I really considered like super heavily, unfortunately, just because of that reason. However, it's something that I've like kept in mind, and I would love to do it at some point. So it's definitely something I'm like I'm keeping it in mind basically, and not like ruling out the possibility like in the future.
And for you, I guess it's important to keep under the Pokemon name, I guess.
I mean, for Cardinal, obviously, like the whole idea was creating a Pokemon region of your very own. Like that's something that everyone did as like kids, and we've all done it as fans. And so like just the idea of that itself is really fascinating. But I don't know, like I would say that now that I've sort of done that experience, I'm kind of open to whatever, because the advantage of doing something with Pokemon is that it's like recognizable and like people can really get invested in it because they love Pokemon. But then if you were to do something like different that's like original, like Mr. Buddy is doing right now, you obviously have complete control of whatever you want to do because it's yours. So I think there's positives to both sides of that.
Was making your own game a consideration for you, Lockstin, especially when you started using Lockemon instead of Pokemon?
Originally, no, but that was definitely the biggest question I kept getting. A few people approached me and asked if they could start making sprites and things to help out with a fan game in the potential future, and I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. I have nothing against that. And then just like 3 weeks ago, this guy approaches me and says, hey, you told me that it was okay, so I set up this Discord. We have like 50 game devs and people who have experience in making Pokemon ROM hacks and stuff, and here's your weather mechanic, and all of the moves are pre-programmed, and all of the new abilities are already programmed. We just need artists and like some help, and then plot and story. And so like there's a ROM hacky kind of game being made right now. No idea if that's actually going to finish, but I'm helping them out now, but I am trying to keep my distance a bit just because of the potential risks and all that, wanting to not have the channel too directly associated with it for the reasons Hoops mentioned.
Yeah, because I guess in your case, even though you've used a different name, or you're using a different name now, if it's a ROM hack, you're still using assets and like programming that
Yeah, and like
that
there's
is official.
still the game itself is still going to be using the Pokemon name because it's still going to have the other Pokemon in it. And I think they said they were using the RPG Maker Pokemon Essentials kit, which is like a fan-made kit specifically for making Pokemon games. Yeah, so it's a risk. But Pokemon Xenoverse released recently, and it was like the most ambitious fan project I think I've seen come out of the community. And it's been out for a month now, and there hasn't been any issue with it, potentially just because there was no money involved at all.
Well, from what I've heard, I'm no expert at this at all, but from what I've heard, it could also have something to do with the fact that they did not use Pokemon in the title of the game. It's just called like Xenoverse, and then it has like a subtitle. So like it is a Pokemon game, but they're not like using Pokemon as like the branding of the game, if that makes sense. So, I mean, from what I've heard, that might be a factor too. But yeah,
I could definitely see that.
It's really kind of complicated, and that's, I guess, another reason why I'm just like not wanting to risk it, because you have a game like this that's like very much a Pokemon fan game and it's not getting touched, but then you had Pokemon Uranium, like, and countless others that just get axed almost immediately. So it's just,
it could also be a part of like what or how fitting of the brand they are, because like Uranium, from what I remember, was extremely edgy and a little over the top. So, you know, Pokemon might definitely not want that associated with their brand, as opposed to something like Xenoverse, which is, you know, it kind of fits in. It's a little edgier, but nothing that Pokemon hasn't done before.
right.
Actually, now that you mention it, Xenoverse, when I first saw it, I didn't even think it was a Pokemon game. I thought it was just like, oh, it's another Pokemon kind of game, but with monsters. And that one just looks like a Gengar. Okay, they're kind of like ripping off Pokemon designs. And then I realized, oh, wait a second. Maybe going in that direction works. So trying to separate more from the brand. So maybe we will use the Lockemon brand for the title, or just straight up call it Blazing Bloom or something.
I guess what I want to finish on is that, are there any of your like original ideas that you would really like to see incorporated into an official Pokemon game?
I'm not sure if it's original. I'm sure other people have come up with the same idea, but the thing I'd like to see most is gyms that fit themes rather than types. Like the gyms I've designed, they still use Mon that are mainly 2 or 3 types. Like the Arcade Fun Center gym is mainly electric, and the cooking restaurant gym is mainly fire, but they also have completely unrelated typed Pokemon, like a solid grass type that's based on a food you can eat. That fits a restaurant, so do that. It just increases the difficulty just a smidge, makes you have to think a little bit more about your team that you bring into the gym, and you can't just have one Pokemon come in and sweep all of them just because they have an advantage, you know? I'd love to see that in a future Pokemon game.
Yeah, something like Raihan's gym, but turned up a little more.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I do want to say that I think something that would translate really well is Lockstin's weather mechanic, where you have a weather type thing for every type. I think that's something that's like, that could be a thing, in my opinion. So I think that's a cool idea. But as far as the stuff from my series, I mean, I didn't really introduce like crazy new like gameplay mechanics like Lockstin did, other than like my Tundra forms, which those are cool, but those are kind of like a blend between shadow Pokemon and regional variants. So that's not like something that's realistic. That was purely just like a I'm going to do this because I don't want to just do regional variants. I want to do something cool, but like regional variants, like people want regional variants. So that's kind of where that came from. But I guess I would just say, like, in general, just doing things that are just like, they're just like different to what we expect, because that was a big thing in terms of like making the story, the general plot, was that I did not want to follow the beat of, okay, there's this evil team and they are hunting the legendary Pokemon. Like, that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, I do not want the goal of the evil team to be the getting the legendary Pokemon, which is why I flipped it and said, okay, they're going to be doing something else, and then the legendary is going to come in and actually help you defeat them. Similar to what they did in Sword and Shield, which was like a complete coincidence. But also, I guess the other thing would be the whole story arc that I had with the rival character Krim, and kind of how he was like a huge driving force behind the plot, and he kind of like weaved his way with the evil team. I think just things like that, they're like different and unique, is definitely what I would like to see. So
yeah, and you did use time travel in your plot.
Sort of, yeah.
Which is not something that Pokemon has done yet, but I think could be quite interesting.
Yeah, that's something I would like to see too. Because aside from like two like a few couple tiny little moments, we haven't really seen that, so that would be cool too.
Yeah, the only element of time travel that I can think of right now is like that one Celebi event in Heart Gold and Soul Silver where you go back and defeat Giovanni, which was awesome, but it was an event, right? It wasn't a major element.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to touch on for yourselves?
I guess, I mean, just thank you to everyone who supported my channel or supported my series, and I am like super happy for all of the other series that have sort of like sprouted up afterwards, and yeah, it's just been super awesome. So just thanks to everyone for all the support. I really appreciate it.
Big thanks. It's definitely neat being a part of the upswing of a big trend. I remember a couple years ago, which was actually probably like 5 years ago, the big trend that the whole Pokemon community was doing was like super in-depth theories, but then like the theories sort of dried up, and we've been kind of stagnant a bit for a while, but this is definitely another big upswing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing I absolutely did not anticipate when I was doing this was the fact that people would like go out and make their own. Like I didn't expect so many like fan-made region projects to like sprout up afterwards. So that was like super, super cool to see. And like you said, it's cool to be like a part of sort of a trend that is now currently going on in the community.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. This was great. And so I just want to give you the opportunity to plug whatever you'd like. So, Hoops, you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess so. So, I mean, if you haven't checked out my Pokemon Cardinal series, you can do so on my channel, Hoops and Hip Hop. It's as we've been talking about, it's a series that I go through a region I've created based on Canada, where I tell the story of it as if it's a game, and it's a lot of fun. And I also do a bunch of other really cool Pokemon videos too, that I think are cool anyway. So yeah, I mean, that would be great if you want to check that out.
All right, how about you, Lockstin? What do you got?
And likewise, it's a series. If you I assume just searching Kaskade Region pulls it up. Just going through Pacific Northwest. Rather than focusing on the story, we are focusing on designing Mon themselves primarily, and going through just what inspired them. And it's super cool, because the process for designing them was very much inspired by the way I assume Game Freak designs their own Pokemon. And also, most of the videos on the channel are about real Pokemon, so it's really cool.
And links to all of that will be in the description of the video or of the podcast. So you can go straight there as well. So again, thank you very much for doing this. And also thank you everyone for listening. You can support the show at patreon.com/UmbrianLibris. I'll see you in the next chapter.